The council chamber was huge. It was bigger than any building on Earth. Lights of every color floated in the air. Strange sounds filled the room as 800 different species talked in their own languages. Some delegates looked like insects. Some looked like clouds of gas. Some had no shape at all. Ambassador Park Yuna stood alone on a small platform in the center of it all. She was 34 years old. She had black hair tied back in a simple knot. She wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Around her neck hung a small translator device that turned alien words into Korean and her words into whatever language the listener needed. This was her first time speaking to the full Galactic Council. Earth had joined the Galactic Union 3 years ago. In that time, humans had tried to be good members. They followed the rules. They paid their fees. They smiled when other species made jokes about how primitive they were. Today, Yuna was here to ask for something simple. Earth wanted permission to settle in the Kepler corridor. It was a group of empty planets that nobody was using. The request followed all the proper rules. High Arbiter Thalos rose from his platform high above everyone else. He was a Villani. His species had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. He had gray skin, 4 yellow eyes, and a mouth full of small, sharp teeth. When he spoke, his voice was cold. The council recognizes the human representative. He said the word human like it was something dirty. Several delegates laughed. Yuna kept her face calm. She had practiced this moment many times. Thank you, High Arbiter. Earth formally requests colonial rights to the Kepler corridor as stated in Article 7 of the Settlement Charter. We have submitted all required documents and paid all fees. We ask the Council to approve our request. Thalos did not even look at her documents. Denied. The single word hit Yuna like a punch. May I ask why? You may not. Thalos looked around at the other delegates, smiling. But I will tell you anyway, so that you understand your place. Humans are not worthy of expansion. Your species is violent. You are primitive. You die after only 80 or 90 years. You are to be direct, disposable. More laughter from the chamber. Some delegates did not laugh. They looked uncomfortable. But none of them spoke up, Thalos continued. The Kepler corridor will be divided among the founding species. Earth will receive nothing. Yuna's hands began to shake. She held them behind her back so no one could see. High Arbiter, with respect. This decision violates the charter that Earth signed when we joined the Union. We have rights under that document. You have whatever rights we decide to give you? Thalos leaned forward, and his 4 eyes gleamed with cruel pleasure. Which brings me to the Council's second decision. After much discussion, we have voted to reclassify humanity as a protected species. The chamber went quiet. Even the species that had been laughing stopped. Yuna felt her stomach drop. She knew what protected species meant. It meant Earth would lose all voting rights. It meant the Villani would take control of human space. It meant humanity would become slaves in everything but name. You cannot do this, she said. Her voice was steady, but just barely. It is already done. The vote was taken this morning. Thalos spread his hands. You should be grateful. We could have chosen extermination instead. The protected classification is mercy. The chamber erupted in applause. Hundreds of delegates clapped or made whatever sound their species used to show approval. The noise was deafening. Yuna stood completely still. Her mind was racing. 3 years. 3 years of following their rules, accepting their insults, trying to earn respect through patience. All of it was worth nothing. The Council had never planned to treat humans as equals. They had just been waiting for the right moment to put humanity in chains. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small communication device. She pressed a button. Ambassador Park to Earth Command? Priority 1? Transmitting Council decision now. Requesting immediate response. Thalos laughed. Call your leaders, little human. Tell them to prepare their cities for inspection. Villani oversight teams will arrive within 10 cycles to begin the transition of power. Yuna did not respond. She stood with the device pressed to her ear, waiting. 30 seconds passed. In the chamber, delegates began to mutter. Why was the human just standing there? Why was she not crying or begging? Then a voice came through the device. It was Secretary General Kang Do-yeon. He was the leader of Earth's united government. Ambassador Park, message received. Return to Earth immediately. The Council will receive our formal response within one standard cycle. Understood, Secretary General. Yuna lowered the device. She looked up at Thalos. Earth will respond within one cycle. Thalos snorted. Respond? What response can you possibly give? You have no power here. You have no allies. You have nothing. Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, thin and cold. Several delegates near her platform shifted uncomfortably. There was something in that smile that they did not like. Something dangerous. High Arbiter, Yuna said. I would suggest that your species use this time to study Earth's history. Pay attention to what humans call total war. Pay attention to what happens when we are told we have no choice. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Is that a threat? Thalos called after her. His voice was angry now, but there was something else in it. Something that might have been the beginning of doubt. Yuna stopped at the door. She did not turn around. It is information, High Arbiter. What you do with it is your choice. She walked out of the chamber and did not look back. The delegates sat in confused silence for a long moment. Then Thalos laughed loudly. Brave words from a primitive. Their response will be tears and begging. I guarantee it. The chamber relaxed. Yes, of course. What else could humans do? They had no fleet. They had no advanced weapons. They were just a young species that had barely learned to travel between stars. Their response would be surrender. It had to be, but some delegates were not so sure. They had seen the look in the human's eyes. They had heard the steel in her voice. And they remembered something that the Villani had apparently forgotten. Humans were the only species in the galaxy that had invented war before they invented. Writing. The next cycle would show everyone what that meant. 72 hours passed. The Galactic Council waited for Earth's response. Most delegates expected an apology. Some expected silence. A few expected a polite request to negotiate. None of them expected what they got. Every screen in the council chamber turned on at once. Every display on every ship in the Villani fleet lit up. Every communication device in the entire galaxy that could receive a signal showed the same image. Secretary General Kang Do-yeon stood behind a podium. He was 51 years old with gray hair and a face like carved stone. He wore a black suit. Behind him stood the flags of Earth's 200 nations, all united under one government. Next to the flags was the symbol of the United Earth Defense Force. It was a simple design. A blue planet with a sword and shield crossed over it. When Do-yeon spoke, his voice was calm. But there was an edge to it that made translators across the galaxy struggle to find the right words. High Arbiter Thalos, members of the Galactic Council. I am Secretary General Kang Do-yeon. Speaking on behalf of the 8 billion people of Earth, we have received your decision regarding humanity's status. We have discussed it among ourselves. And we have reached our own decision. He paused. In the council chamber, delegates leaned forward. Here it comes, they thought. The begging, the pleading, the desperate offer to negotiate. Earth rejects your decision entirely. The chamber went dead silent. We do not accept reclassification as a protected species. We do not accept Villani oversight. We do not surrender our rights to the Kepler corridor. And we do not recognize the Council's authority to make any of these decisions without our consent. Thalos jumped to his feet. You cannot simply reject. I am not finished speaking. Do-yeon's voice cut through the High Arbiter's words like a blade. Thalos fell silent, shocked. No one had ever spoken to him that way. Do-yeon continued. For 3 years, humanity has followed your rules. We have been patient. We have been peaceful. We have tolerated your insults, your mockery, and your attempts to limit our growth. We did this because we believed that we could earn your respect through good behavior. We were wrong. You do not respect good behavior. You only respect power." He leaned forward slightly. "So let us talk about power." The image shifted. A woman in a military uniform stepped into view. She had short gray hair, sharp eyes, and a face full of old scars. Her uniform was covered in ribbons and medals. She was Admiral Choi Sunny, Supreme Commander of the United Earth Defense Force. "At 0600 hours Earth Standard Time," Sunny announced, the United Earth Defense Force moved to full war status. All military personnel have been called to duty. All reserve units have been activated. All planetary defense systems are now online. She paused to let that sink in. Then she continued. "Additionally, our forces have already secured the Kepler corridor. All 12 planets are now under human military control." The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates shouted in 100 different languages. How was this possible? The Kepler corridor was dozens of light years away. Sensors should have detected any human fleet movements. This had to be a lie. Thalos screamed over the noise. "Impossible. We would have seen your ships. Our sensors cover every route to that sector." Do-Yun smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Yes, your sensors. We know about those. We have spent the last 3 years mapping your entire detection network. We know where every sensor is placed. We know how long each one takes to send data. We know every blind spot and every delay. Your sensors saw exactly what we wanted them to see." The chamber went quiet again. A new kind of fear was spreading through the delegates. They were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. 3 years, Do-Yun said. For 3 years, you thought we were doing nothing. You thought we were just following rules and accepting insults? You were wrong. We were watching. We were learning. We were preparing. The image shifted again. Now the screen showed Earth's orbital shipyards. Massive structures floated in space around the planet. And in those structures, ships were being built. Huge ships, warships, dozens of dreadnoughts, hundreds of cruisers, thousands of fighters and bombers. Ships with weapons that the galaxy had never seen. Ships with engines that could outrun anything the Villani had. Ships with armor that could take hits that would destroy other vessels. All of them were complete. All of them were ready. "You called us primitive," Sunny said. "You laughed at our technology. You thought that because we were young, we must be weak. But you forgot something important. Humans have spent our entire history fighting wars. We have 10,000 years of practice at finding new ways to kill our enemies. Did you really think we would stop just because we reached the stars?" The screen showed crews boarding the ships, soldiers checking their weapons, pilots running to their fighters. Millions of humans moving with calm, practiced efficiency. They had trained for this. They had waited for this. "The United Earth Government," Do-Yun announced, "formally declares a state of war against any species that attempts to enforce the Council's illegal resolution. This includes the Villani hegemony and any of its allies. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. This is a notification." Thalos finally found his voice. "You are insane. We outnumber you thousands to 1. You cannot possibly win." Do-Yun looked directly into the camera. His eyes were hard. "High Arbiter, you had the chance to treat humanity as equals. You had the chance to share the galaxy peacefully. You chose instead to make us slaves. You chose to make us enemies. Very well. Humanity accepts your terms." He straightened to his full height. "We will see you on the battlefield. And when we meet there, remember this. Humans do not know how to surrender. We only know how to win." The screen went black dark in the council chamber. No one moved. No one spoke. The silence stretched on and on. 800 species sat frozen in shock and fear. Slowly, Thalos began to laugh. It was a forced, hollow sound. "Foolish humans. They have just signed their own death warrant. We will crush them in days." But his hands were shaking. And when he looked around the chamber, he saw that many delegates were not laughing with him. They were looking at each other with wide eyes. They were wondering if the Villani had just started a war that the galaxy could not win. The galaxy had never seen anything like this. A species that had only been in space for 50 years had just declared war on the oldest and most powerful empire in known history. It was madness. It was suicide. It was the most exciting thing that had happened in 10,000 years. High. Arbiter Thalos called an emergency meeting of the council. He stood on his platform and shouted at the delegates. His 4 eyes were wild with anger. We must respond with overwhelming force. Every species must send their fleets to join the Villani Armada. We will crush these humans in one massive strike. We will burn their planet to ash. We will make an example that the galaxy will never forget. He expected immediate agreement. The Villani had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. When they gave orders, other species obeyed, but this time, something different happened. The prime speaker of the Rithani collective rose from her seat. The Rithani were insectoids who shared one mind across billions of bodies. They were ancient and wise. They never acted without careful thought. The collective has studied human history, the prime speaker said. We have learned things that disturb us greatly. Humans invented a concept they called total war. This means that when humans fight, they do not stop until the enemy is completely destroyed. They burn their own cities rather than let enemies take them. They kill their own food supplies to starve invaders. They fight with their soldiers, their civilians, their children. Everyone fights. No one surrenders? She looked around the chamber. The collective will not send ships to fight humanity. We believe the risk is too great. Thalos stared at her. You are afraid of these primitives? We are afraid of what they become when they have nothing left to lose. The Rithani delegation stood and walked out of the chamber. Then the Torani Federation announced they would not send ships either. Their ambassador said that humans had invented nuclear weapons and used them on themselves. Any species crazy enough to do that was too dangerous to fight. Then the Ixali domain withdrew. Then the Kethri Republic. Then a dozen more. Within 1 hour, half of the Council's military strength had vanished. Thalos was screaming by the end. Cowards! All of you! The Villani will destroy humanity alone, and then we will remember who abandoned us. But his threats were empty, and everyone knew it. The galaxy was afraid. Not of the Villani anymore. Of humanity. Far away, on the human battlecruiser Indomitable, Admiral Choi Sun-hee read the intelligence reports. Her ship was the flagship of the human fleet. It was 500 meters long, covered in weapons and armor. It was the most powerful warship humanity had ever built. Captain Lee Ji-won stood beside her. He was her second in command. He was 30 years old with a serious face and quick eyes. The Villani are mobilizing their home fleet, Ji-won reported. Our spies count approximately 8,000 ships. Sun-hee nodded slowly. And how many ships do we have ready for battle? Yuan hesitated before answering. 312, Admiral. 300 against 8,000. Those were bad odds. Those were impossible odds. Any reasonable commander would look at those numbers and surrender, but Sunny was not a reasonable commander. She was a human commander. Captain, she said, do you know the story of Admiral Yi? Yi Sun-sen? The naval commander from the 1500s? Yes, in 1597, the Japanese invaded Korea with a massive fleet. Admiral Yi had only 13 ships. 13 against 333. Everyone said he would die. Everyone said it was impossible. But he won, Jawan said. He won. He used the terrain. He used the tides. He used strategy and courage and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. When the battle was over, the Japanese had lost over 200 ships. Admiral Yi had lost 0. Sun-hee turned to face her captain. Her eyes were calm but fierce. We are the descendants of Admiral Yi. We are the descendants of people who fought wolves with sticks and won. People who hunted animals 10 times their size and won. People who split atoms and walked on moons. The Villani have numbers. We have 10,000 years of learning how to kill things bigger than us. I know which advantage I prefer. On Earth, Secretary General Kang Do-young addressed the planet. Every screen on every continent showed his face. Billions of people stopped what they were doing to listen. People of Earth, he said, you have heard the Council's decision. They want to make us slaves. They think we are weak. They think we will break. Let me tell you what I think. He paused. His voice grew stronger. I think they have never met humans before. Not really. They have met us when we were being polite. They have met us when we were following rules. They have never met us when we were fighting for survival. They are about to learn why that was a mistake. Throughout our history, humanity has faced impossible enemies. We have been conquered, enslaved, starved, and bombed until our cities were dust. Every single time we have risen again. Every single time we have won. Not because we were stronger than our enemies. Because we absolutely refused to give up. He raised his fist. This enemy is bigger than any we have faced before. This fight will be harder than any we have known. Some of us will not survive it. But our children will survive. Our species will survive. And when this war is over, the galaxy will know the truth that we have always known. Humanity does not break. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity wins. The speech ended. Across Earth, there was a moment of silence. Then the enlistment centers opened. Within 1 hour, 10 million people had volunteered for military service. Within 1 day, the number was over 50 million. Factories switched to war production. Scientists worked around the clock on new weapons. Civilians trained for defense. Every human, everywhere, was preparing for war. In the council chamber, the delegates watched all of this happening. They saw the human ships launching. They saw the human soldiers marching. They saw the human cities converting to fortresses. And for the first time in 12,000 years, the rulers of the galaxy felt something they had almost forgotten. Fear. The Villani Armada arrived at the Kepler Gateway like a storm of metal and fire. 8,247 warships. Each one was massive. Each one was covered in weapons. Together they were the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. High Arbiter Thalos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Divine Judgment. It was 3 kilometers long. It had enough firepower to destroy a moon. Around it floated thousands of other ships, ready to follow his commands. Thalos looked at the tactical display and smiled. The human fleet was visible now. Less than 300 ships. They looked like toys compared to his armada. All ships, Thalos announced, prepare to attack. We will end this war in 1 hour. We will destroy every human vessel, then we will proceed to Earth and burn it to nothing. Today, the galaxy learns what happens when primitives challenge the Villani hegemony. His crew cheered. The other ships reported ready. The armada began to move forward in perfect formation. On the human side, Admiral Choi Sun-hee watched the enemy approach. She stood on the bridge of the Indomitable with her hands behind her back. Her face showed no fear. Around her, the crew worked at their stations with calm focus. Captain Li Iguan stood beside her. Admiral, they outnumber us 26-1. I can count, Captain. Yes, Admiral. What are your orders? Sun-hee looked at the approaching wall of enemy ships. She thought about Earth. She thought about the billions of people counting on her. She thought about all of human history, all the impossible battles that humans had won because they refused to lose. All ships, this is Admiral Choi, she said into the fleet channel. Her voice was steady. You know why we are here. You know what we are fighting for? Today, we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. Trust your training. Trust your crewmates. And remember that we are the children of Earth. We do not run. We do not hide. We fight, she straightened. All ships attack formation. Full speed ahead. 300 human ships accelerated toward 8,000 enemy vessels. The Villani fired first. Thousands of plasma torpedoes streaked across space. Each one could destroy a small ship. Together they looked like a wall of death. Thalos laughed. Foolish humans. They are flying directly into our fire. This will be over in seconds. But it was not over in seconds. The human ships did not try to avoid the torpedoes. Instead, they flew straight at them and then through them. Human pilots, trained in atmospheric dogfighting, twisted and rolled their ships with impossible precision. They slipped between torpedoes. They spun past explosions. They moved through the wall of fire like water through rocks. Thalos stopped laughing. What are they doing? No species can maneuver like that. His tactical officer was pale. Sir, they are not flying like normal ships. They are flying like they are part of the ship. Like the ship is their own body. That was exactly what was happening. Human pilots had trained for years in atmosphere where a single mistake meant instant death. They had learned to feel every movement of their craft. They had learned to react without thinking. Now they were using those skills in space, and no other species in the galaxy could match them. The human ships burst through the torpedo barrage and opened fire. The weapons they used were new. Railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missiles that split into dozens of smaller missiles. Electronic attacks that scrambled enemy computers. The Villani had never seen any of this technology. They did not know how to defend against it. The first Villani dreadnought exploded 4 minutes into the battle. Then another. Then 10 more. Human ships moved through the enemy fleet like wolves through sheep. They struck fast, hit hard, and moved before the Villani could respond. Where are they? Thalos screamed. I cannot track them. They move too fast. They did move fast. Human ships were smaller and lighter than Villani ships. They could accelerate faster, turn faster, stop faster, and human crews could handle higher jump forces than any other species. While Villani gunners were still trying to aim, human ships had already fired and moved to new positions. Captain Li Jiwan watched the battle from the Indomitable's bridge. Red dots were disappearing from the tactical display. Each red dot was a Villani ship. Each disappearance was a kill. Admiral, he said, we have destroyed 47 enemy vessels. Our losses are 3 ships. Sunny nodded. Tell Wolf Squadron to target their command ships. Cut off their coordination. Yes, Admiral. Wolf Squadron was the best fighter group in the human fleet. 12 small ships crewed by the best pilots Earth had ever produced. They received their orders and attacked immediately. The Villani command ships were protected by layers of escorts. It did not matter. Wolf Squadron dove through the defensive formations like knives through paper. They destroyed 6 command ships in 10 minutes. The Villani fleet began to lose coordination. Ships started running into each other. Friendly fire incidents multiplied. 30 minutes into the battle, the Villani had lost over 200 ships. The humans had lost 19. The loss could not believe what he was seeing. This was impossible. His fleet was the most powerful in the galaxy. These were just humans, primitives. They were supposed to die. His tactical officer spoke with a shaking voice. Sir, they are not fighting like a military. They are fighting like predators. They are hunting us. That was the truth. Human commanders had studied predator behavior for thousands of years. Now they were using that knowledge. They isolated weak ships from the group. They attacked from blind spots. They went for killing blows, not warning shots. They were not trying to defeat the Villani fleet. They were trying to destroy it. 4 hours into the battle, Thalos made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. All ships, he said. His voice was hollow. Retreat. Full retreat. Return to Villani space. His officers stared at him. Sir? Do IT? The Villani Armada, 8,000 ships strong, turned and ran from a human force of less than 300. On the Indomitable, Admiral Sunhee watched them go. All ships hold position. Do not pursue. She opened a channel to Earth. Secretary General, the Kepler Gateway is secure. Enemy forces are in full retreat. Kang Duyan's response came quickly. Casualties? 63 ships destroyed. Approximately 4,000 personnel killed. There was a pause. When Do Yun spoke again, his voice was heavy with grief and pride. They will be honored. Every single one. Well done, Admiral. Sunny closed the channel and looked at the retreating enemy fleet. They had won? Against impossible odds, they had won, but she knew this was not the end. Phalos would come back. He would bring more ships. He would find allies. The war was not over. She turned to Captain Li Juan. Begin repairs. Reload all weapons. I want the fleet ready to fight again within 48 hours. Yes, Admiral. Juan paused. Admiral, we really did it. We won, Sunhee allowed herself a small smile. We won this battle, Captain. The war is just beginning. But today, we showed them something they will never forget. We showed them what humans can do. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like wildfire. The mighty Villani, rulers of the galaxy for 12,000 years, had been defeated by a species that had only been in space for 50 years. It was impossible. It was unprecedented. It was the beginning of a new age. The galaxy changed after the Battle of Kepler Gateway. Everything that had seemed permanent and unshakable was suddenly uncertain. The old order was crumbling, and no one knew what would replace it. High Arbiter Thalos returned to Villani Prime in disgrace. His own people were waiting for him. They stripped him of his rank in public. They took away his titles and his wealth. They put him in chains and sent him to a prison planet on the edge of Villani space. He would spend the rest of his long life there, alone, thinking about the humans he had underestimated. The new Villani leaders tried to hold their empire together, but it was too late. For 12,000 years, other species had obeyed the Villani because they were afraid of their power. Now that fear was gone. Everyone had seen the mighty Villani fleet run away from a few hundred human ships. 6 species declared independence within the first month. The Rithani Collective announced they were leaving the Villani sphere of influence. The Torani Federation followed. Then the Ixali, the Kethri, and many others. Old enemies of the Villani saw their chance and took it. Old allies decided to find new friends. The Villani hegemony was falling apart, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. But the biggest change was how the galaxy saw humanity. Before the war, humans had been a joke. A young species that had barely learned to travel between stars. Primitives who would never amount to anything. Nobody took them seriously. Nobody respected them. Now everyone respected them. Or at least everyone feared them. And for many species, fear and respect were the same thing. Ambassadors from dozens of worlds came to Earth. They wanted to meet with the humans. They wanted to make treaties and trade agreements. They wanted to be friends with the species that had defeated the Villani, and then something unexpected happened. The Galactic Council itself sent a message to Earth. They requested a meeting. Ambassador Pak Yuna returned to Station Nexus Prime for the second time. But this time, she did not come alone. She arrived on the battlecruiser Defiance, surrounded by 40 warships. When she walked into the council chamber, she wore the same diplomatic uniform as before. But everyone could see the fleet waiting outside. The chamber was quieter than before. Many seats were empty. Species that had supported the Villani were too ashamed or too afraid to attend. The ones who remained looked at Yuna with new eyes. The new High Arbiter was a young Villani bureaucrat named Sethos. His hands were shaking as he spoke. The Galactic Council formally withdraws its resolution regarding human reclassification. Earth will retain full membership and voting rights. The Kepler corridor is recognized as human territory. He swallowed hard. We also wish to discuss terms for a comprehensive peace agreement. Yuna did not respond immediately. She let the silence stretch out. She looked around the chamber at all the faces watching her. Then she spoke. Peace, yes, humanity wants peace. We have always wanted peace. When we first came to this council, we came with open hands. We wanted cooperation. We wanted friendship. We wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves. Her voice hardened. You answered us with contempt. You called us primitive. You called us disposable. You tried to take our freedom because you thought we were too weak to stop you. She stepped forward. We did not start this war. We did not want this war. But we finished it. The chamber was completely silent. Every delegate was listening. Here are humanity's terms for peace, Una said. First, the Galactic Council will be restructured. No single species will have permanent authority over others. All members will have equal voting power. The era of the Villani hegemony is over. Cethos nodded quickly. Agreed. Second, the classification of protected species will be abolished completely. Every species in the galaxy has the right to govern itself. No more slavery by another name. Agreed. Third, humanity will establish mutual defense treaties with any species that requests one. If you are attacked, we will help you fight. We protect our friends. Some delegates looked surprised at this. They had expected humans to demand tribute or territory. Instead, humans were offering protection. What if we refuse these terms? Someone asked from the back of the chamber. Una's expression did not change. Then we will continue to defend ourselves by any means necessary. And you have seen what that looks like. The vote was held immediately. Every single species voted yes. Even the Villani. The peace treaty was signed that same day. In the weeks that followed, humanity's role in the galaxy transformed completely. Species that had once mocked humans now sought alliances with them. Human military advisors were invited to dozens of worlds. Human technology became the most valuable in the galaxy. And slowly, carefully, humans began to use their new power to make things better. On Earth, Secretary General Kong Do-yun announced that he would step down from his emergency powers. The war was over. It was time to return to normal life. But before he left office, he gave one final speech. We have proven what we can do when we are threatened, he said. Now we must prove what we can do in peace. Let us build. Let us explore. Let us reach out to our new friends and create something greater than any of us could achieve alone. The galaxy was afraid of us. Let us give them reason to trust us instead. Admiral Choi Sun-hee retired from active command, though she remained as an advisor to the military. At a ceremony for graduating officers, she told them something she had learned. We won because we refused to give up. But remember why we were fighting. We were not fighting to conquer. We were fighting to earn our place in the galaxy. We have done that. Now we must prove we deserve to keep it. Be strong, but be kind. Be fierce, but be fair. Show the galaxy that humans are more than warriors. Show them that we can be partners and friends. Ambassador Park Yuna became humanity's permanent representative to the reformed Galactic Council. She worked hard to build bridges between species. She helped former enemies become allies. She showed the galaxy that humanity could be trusted. Fear got us through the door, she often said. Respect will keep us there. Years passed. The galaxy slowly healed from the war. The Villani hegemony became just another member state, no better or worse than anyone else. New alliances formed. Old grudges faded. And humanity was at the center of it all, not as conquerors, but as builders. And throughout the galaxy, a new saying became common. It was first whispered, then spoken out loud, then accepted as simple truth by every species. Never corner a human. They do not know how to surrender. They only know how to win. Back on Earth, in a small office in the Diplomatic Corps' headquarters, Park Yuna kept a reminder of everything that had happened. It was a picture from her first day in the council chamber. In the picture, she was standing alone on her platform, surrounded by aliens who were laughing at her. She looked at that picture sometimes and remembered how afraid she had been, how alone she had felt, how impossible everything had seemed. Then she would look out her window at the ships coming and going from Earth, ships from 100 different worlds, friends and allies and partners. The impossible had become possible. The alone had become many. Humanity had found its place in the stars. And they had earned it the only way humans knew how. By refusing to give up, no matter what.